let's say license plates in North Carolina. Okay? What is the basic format of a license plate in North Carolina? Does anybody know? It's 7 characters.
There's the 3 letters, then the dash, then the 4 numbers.
Okay, so we have letter, 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 number, 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 right? Well, how many letters would I have to pick from on each one of those letter slots? How many letters are in the alphabet? A lot of people. 26. So, can letters be repeated on a license plate?
Yeah.
Yes. So we have 26 there, 26 there, 26 there. How many digits are there?
Andy.
No.
There's only 4.
No.
I mean, it's 1.
How many different digits can I put on each one of those lines?
Oh, only 1 through 9. 0 through 9.
Very good. How many is that?
10.
10. So we have 10, 10, 10, and 10. So when you multiply those together, you will get how many license plates there can be in North Carolina, not counting all the weird ones and all the vanity plates. And the only thing you would be not counting in these, but I don't know what words are constituted as 3-letter bad words, but they wouldn't allow 3-letter bad words, okay? So you would back those out, but I don't know which ones they consider bad anymore, because now everything is...
That's a big number. I mean, 1, 7, 5, 7, 6, and then 4 zeros.
So it's 175 million different license plates in the state. But you think about it, you got trucks and cars and motorcycles and ones that they kind of put out of commission for a while once they get old. Mine is very old, and I'm assuming at some point they'll send me a new plate because it's getting very old. And matter of fact, if I ever buy a new car in the near future, I will get a new plate because this one is like, to put the sticker on, it's annoying. I've scraped them off before. So they would probably not give that same number back to somebody for a while.
So you did...
Yes, that's not 26 exclamation because it doesn't go from 26 all the way to 1.
Oh, okay.
It is 26 times 26 times 26, or you can do 26 cubed times 10 to the 4th. Okay?
Yep.
I've always been fascinated, and I haven't done the math, but I've always been fascinated with South Carolina because they just have 3 letters and 3 numbers. So theirs would be 1 less 0. And I'm wondering why there needs to be 175 million in North Carolina, but only 17 million in South Carolina. Yeah, but you would think 17 million isn't enough to cover it all. So I'm not sure if there's but when I see like Miss Barhorse license plate is 3 letters, 3 numbers. So I was wondering why that is. So if I have a license plate with all 4 numbers the same, it would be, the letters don't matter, and then you have the 4 of the same numbers, right? So you would have 26, 26, 26, because they would be the same, you know, they could be any letters, it could be duplicates, it could be anything. But what would you put for the numbers if they're all the same?
1.
You would put 1s, but the first one you would put a 10, because the first guy can be anything. But then the other ones have to be the same thing. Do you understand why I put 1s in there? So in the first choice, it could be anyone. Let's say it's 7s. Then the other 3 can only be 7s. There's only one choice, okay? Same with if it's even, or, you know, you have to look at how many choices you have. Sometimes they'll tell you with repetition, without repetition. So what is this? 1, 7, what?
5, 7, 6, 0.
Yes, and the other one, if you're doing probability, you do it over the total. What is that? That divided by that.
Sec.
So for every car, for every 1,000 cars you see, you will see one with 4 of the same digits on them. Okay? And I see them all the time, so it's kind of weird, like when you think of it that way. 3, there's a little bit more. 3-digit cars. Of course, there's a lot more 2-digit cars. And then cars that have all different numbers would be, what would you do if a car has all different numbers here? You would do 26, 26, 26, and then you would do what in the numbers? 10 on the first one.
1, 2, 3.
Nope. 9, 8, and 7. Because if they're all different, the first guy can be anything, the second guy has to be anything but the first guy, the third guy has to be anything but the first and the second guy. So there's a lot of you guys analyzing what the question's asking and what the restrictions are. These are called restrictions, okay? You can't have any repetition. You can't have one repetition, what the deal is, okay? And some of them are very difficult if they get really complicated. I think the 6 I'm giving you are pretty basic, but some of them have issues. About 20 years ago, something happened in Charlotte with phone numbers. Does anybody know what happened? We used to all be 704 area code, but then they added
980.
980. They ran out of numbers, okay? So let's look at the 704 area code. If we have a 704 area code, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a basic phone number, right? Well, if it's a 704 area code, how many choices do I have for the first position?
1 on the first 3.
1 on the first 3, because it has to be 7, it has to be a 0, and it has to be a 4. Got it? So what about the first number of a phone number? It can be anything but 2 digits. Does anybody know what 2 digits cannot be in that first number?
5.
0?
Not
1. Because remember, if you dial a 1, you got a long distance line.
5.
And if you dial 0, you get the operator. Well, in the old days, you didn't key in the 704 part because we only had one area code. So I don't know if they've opened it up to 0s and 1s because now you have an area code front loader. But right in the old days, you didn't have a 0 or 1. So here you only had 8 choices, but you basically had 10 choices for the rest of them. Okay? And that would be 8 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the Charlotte area, there were 8 million numbers. Well, they ran out. Why'd they run out? Population, what else?
Technology, I guess.
In the old days, how many phones did a household have?
Usually
1. Then you had fax machines came around, and people had 2.
1. Home phone.
Then cell phones came, and people had 1 per family member, plus sometimes a house phone. When you go to pay for gas, there's a phone number associated with when you swipe the card. So it'll call your bank and get to see if you're valid, if it's a valid credit card, and they can take it and give you gas, right? So all that. You've got office buildings have their own. I have a phone in there with a phone number.
Well, you have an extension.
I have an extension, but in some, like at Bank of America, you have a direct line to your desk. Because I used to work the switchboard in the old days at Bank of America. I was the fill-in person. It was a nightmare. And every call came through the switchboard, and then you took them to the extensions manually.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nightmare. So then they gave everybody a desk phone that was a direct line. So I could call you at your desk, and I didn't have to go through a secretary or a switchboard or anything. And every one of those was a separate phone number. And that's how it is now. Everybody has their own phone number. So everything gets bigger. So they wanted to add a area code. So what happened when they added an area code? What happened then? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. What happened then? How many choices do I have for the first position now in Charlotte? 2. What about the second and third position? Be careful.
Yes. 1.
1. Because if I choose a 9, I have to have an 8 and an 0. If I choose a 7, I have to have a 0 and a 4. You kind of get that? And assuming that this is the same, where you can't have 0 and 1, I don't know if that's the same anymore. I haven't looked into that. Then now we have 16 million. So overnight, we doubled our capacity for cell phone numbers in the Charlotte area. Okay. Yep. So this is a classic way of doing accounting principle. It's usually menu items or clothes articles. You're going to camp and you want to be able to mix and match all your clothes so you can make a lot of different outfits out of a small amount of clothes. You don't have to take too much stuff to camp, right? They're classics. Like they'll say, Johnny has 4 shirts, 3 pairs of pants, 2 belts, and 4 pairs of shoes. How many different outfits can he make when you have one of each of those articles, if everything matches? You don't have plaids and polka dots. Okay, so what do you do with those 4 numbers? What do you think you do? You have 4 items that you have to put on, right? How many choices do you have for shirts? 4. How many choices do you have for pants?
3.
And then you have 2 and 4. And you just multiply those together. So it'd be 32 times 3 is 96 different outfits he can make out of those clothing articles. There used to be a store in Charlotte, a woman's store called Casual Corner, and they would come to your house with all their clothes, and they would tell you that you could make like 50 different outfits out of some basic pieces, so you didn't have to spend a lot on clothes. I remember doing that for a while when I didn't have money to buy a bunch of clothes like most women do. Okay?